been a handful of things that I have let go of in recent years. And in doing so have really improved my well-being, simplified my life quite a bit overall, and also just brought more joy and ease into my day-to-day life. And I want to talk about this. The first thing that I have really let go of is hustle culture. Hustle culture is all about working harder by pretty much any means necessary, right? Often at the expense of our physical and our mental well-being. Overworking is often kind of glorified. And there was a time in my life a few years ago, particularly before I had my daughter, because that was when I really had to face a lot of my unrealistic expectations. There was a time where I was pretty out of touch with what true success really meant to me. And as a result, I was trying to do as many projects as I could, scale my business, keep up with the fast-paced nature of it all. I was working multiple jobs at one point for several years. I just was doing so much. I think a lot of us do. The thing is that within hustle culture, nothing is ever enough. No matter what you do or what you achieve or what numbers you reach, you just hardly ever have a moment to stop and appreciate the things that you were doing before you're on to the next thing, you're on to the next goal or improving the next metric. And it's kind of endlessly, to what end? And I remember just how much anxiety I had back then in my life and how often depression would creep in as well. And let me tell you, I felt so much better once I was able to really discern what was most important to me, when I was able to start prioritizing things better. I was able to start slowing down more, kind of exit that rat race and get more meaningful things done, all while respecting what I actually have the bandwidth for. And to me, that is what success really is. Being able to achieve what matters most to you in a way that does not sacrifice your sanity. And I know that the pressure to hustle sometimes comes from a larger system, whether it's the cost of living or the demands of modern work culture. It's not always a choice, but how our society has shaped the way in which we work. And I just want to say that having goals and pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone sometimes, working hard to achieve what it is that we want to achieve is great. These are good things. These are good things. I have plenty of goals and interests and things that I want to do in my life. But I just approach these things so much differently now. The next thing that I have let go of is trying to fit myself into a box. And for me, this has looked like thinking that I should be living a certain way, or eating a certain way, or thinking a certain way, or looking a certain way in order to gain approval from others, or to be liked, or to be successful, or to fit some sort of image or ideology that I believe is best. In trying to fit myself into a box, what I was really doing was kind of ignoring what actually felt best for me, what I actually deep down believed in or valued most, which can create some pretty uncomfy feelings and, a sort of cognitive dissonance when we're out of alignment in that way. Life is too short to be entrapping ourselves in tiny little boxes so that we fit in. And I understand why we do it. It is a fundamental part of human nature for us to want to belong and fit in and be part of a tribe. And I think to some degree and in some situations, that's okay. That's okay. It's the way we're wired, right? We want to fit in. But I also think that what really brings us so much more ease and so much more joy in our life is getting clear on our values, right? Aligning our actions more with those things, living life a little bit more by your own terms. A couple of years ago, I started to rediscover my own style, I guess, and realized how much more fun life is when we connect back to what makes us, right? Our own likes and dislikes and styles and preferences and tastes and all of these things. But this whole thing has really applied to a number of areas in my life, even the way that I approach my work, working in a way that works best for me, especially in the world of content creation. I spent so many years, sometimes listening to experts, right? There's a lot of different ways that we're supposed to be doing things as content creators. And I used to really feel like I have to be doing things a really certain way. And there can be these these parameters with which we are supposed to operate under. But I've just kind of shifted my mindset around this a little bit and been like, you know what, I'm gonna do things in a way that works better for me more often. I've talked about this in videos before, but my relationship with food used to be pretty complicated, and it really dictated how I lived my life. I was constantly consumed by ingredient labels, fearing foods, planning my life around what I could or could not eat, or would not let myself eat. Once I started to let go of that fixation, I started to unlearn a lot of food myths, restored a much healthier relationship with food, and started eating more intuitively as well, which, by the way, this all took years. There were years of just like layers upon layers that I needed to peel away, a lot of faulty thinking I had to kind of work through. But once I did start to let a lot of it go, I relaxed so much. Like, a lot of my health anxiety decreased. I enjoy food so much more. I have so much more variety in my diet. And I also just have so much more mental space to care about things that matter so much more than like whether or not an ingredient is in this. Of course, nutrition and health is so important, and it's still such a big part of the way that I cook at home, and all of these things matter, but stressing out so much about it is not a good thing, and that is really what I let go of most. The next thing that I have been letting go of is not taking things so seriously all the time. I heard something recently that I really resonated with about how us creative people especially tend to take our ideas or our projects so seriously. We put them on a pedestal and then they become intimidating, and we put so much pressure on ourselves. We either procrastinate or we expend so much energy fixating on tiny details, and it's been helpful to remind myself that it is not that deep. It doesn't have to be so deep. Things can be important and meaningful to me, but they don't need to be so painfully serious in my mind. And this has made such a huge difference in how I feel in my life. Earlier this year, I streamlined a lot of the extraneous stuff that I thought I needed to run my business or my life better even. I got rid of or canceled things that I wasn't using or just not using enough to make it worth it, services, subscriptions that became kind of redundant. For example, I transferred my website, a web host that I had for many years to an all-in-one platform, and oh my gosh, that made my life so much easier. I used to just have so many teeny tiny little interwoven subscriptions that I had to deal with, or plug-in thingies and updates and all of this stuff that I just was like, I don't need this in my life. And I have become so much more intentional about how I run things in my life, I guess. And I think that when we do a little audit of maybe all of the things we pay for monthly in a variety of areas of our life, and we let go of the ones that we don't need, it is so freeing. So those are 5 things that I have let go of in recent years. And I really do feel so much better in my life day to day, being so much more intentional about these things, and just being aware of the things that weigh us down and knowing which things gotta go. Sometimes these are mindset shifts, sometimes they're physical things, and it's not always easy. It can take time for us to unlearn things that are sometimes deeply ingrained in us. A lot of these things can cause us stress, and they can be a big weight on our shoulders, and it feels so good to let it go. So let me know in the comments. As always, I love to hear from you guys. Let me know, what is something that you have let go of? What has changed your life here? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you all in the next one.